So Brian Schiffer says, hey bud, it's been a while since I messaged you last. I wanted to ask you a few questions. With books, so I'm gonna break these down into each individual question to kind of tackle them one by one, okay? He says, with books, can you make a full-time income on books alone, or is it more like a seasonal or a textbook season only type of thing? So I get this question a lot with books and a lot of the book flipping tutorials that I have on eFlip. That's the software that I use. I've also looked into a few other ones like Zen Arbitrage, for example, and I'm still kind of, vetting them out myself. Personally, eFlip's super easy to use. It's super easy to implement for, beginners or seasoned people alike. And I love it. I've been using it for, I don't even know, 6+ months now. Great way to source books. Now I'll be sure to drop the eFlip, and the book flipping software module down, not the module, the playlist down in the description. If you want to check it out, it will cover, I think there's like 6 to 10 tutorials in there that will all show you how to use the software yourself to source books online like we're answering for these questions, okay? And you can get, I think it's a 21-day free trial. I don't have an affiliate link for it, but you can try eFlip out for free for 21 days so that you will see that it works for you. And then obviously once you see that it works for you, you'll be inspired to pay for it, right? So there's no sales pitch there. Literally try the software out. Once you see how well it works, you'll be inspired to buy it, okay? So to answer that question specifically, it is more, in my opinion, it is more of a seasonal thing. That said, you can make money with it all year round. I source all year round with books. I do it literally, a couple times a week probably. I don't do it every single day, especially on days like today where I'm really busy, but I source books all year round. Now that said, when I know an upcoming textbook season is coming, right? Maybe a month and a half before the textbook season, or maybe sometimes even 2 months, I'll start buying more textbooks in bulk from eFlip, right? And then I'll literally either keep them myself or list them FBM just in the meantime to potentially get a high sale, or I'll ship them into FBA if I don't want to just hold on to the inventory. And then as it gets and approaches textbook season, once textbook season hits, all those literally flip like candy during textbook season. So it really depends on how you want to approach it. What my approach is, and probably the best approach for all of you, isn't necessarily just to go all in on textbook season. It's probably sourced throughout the entirety of the year, so you can be making money, although the sales velocity will be a little bit lower throughout the year, and the margins might be a little bit lower as well, but you can still make great money on a lot of textbooks outside of textbook season. I do it all the time, okay? And if you want to see some specific examples of that, you can check out the free online arbitrage case study, a link down in the description. I think the 4th or 5th example in there is the actual, it'll show you 6 proven methods that I've used to, scale my own reselling business. And so I think the 4th or the 5th one in there is the actual books and the eFlip software. So there's little timestamps in the actual case study as well. So you can just skip ahead to that one if you want to check it out, okay? And that will show you examples of books that I've flipped, outside of textbook season. A lot of those were, some of them were in textbook season, but a lot of the ones in the specific case study example were outside of textbook season, okay? But so for most people, what I'd recommend is do it all year round, or at least do it outside of textbook season a little bit. That way you're gonna learn, first and foremost, what works and what doesn't a little bit easier, so that when textbook season comes and you plan on scaling up, you'll be that much more effective and you'll make that much more money, okay? But as textbook seasons approach, right, like I said, maybe like a month and a half out or something like that, scale it up, right? Buy a lot of textbooks. You're going to be dropping like a couple $100 all the way up to a couple $1,000, whatever you're working with. And then that might not sell up until textbook season very fast. But as soon as textbook season hits, if you're sourcing good inventory, and I show you in all the tutorials, especially in the case study, I kind of break it down for you a little bit too. If you're sourcing good inventory, there's no reason that a majority of that won't sell in textbook season. And then I think I tripled my investment. I'd have to look back at my numbers from last time in my spreadsheets, but I'm pretty sure in the last textbook season, I tripled my money, which was a few grand, right? So I plan on literally scaling that up as much as possible. I've been buying a lot of books, although textbook season I think is like 2 or 3 months out. I'd have to look. I'll drop the examples of the textbook seasons up on the screen for you. There's 2 main ones, one spring, one fall, and then I think there's one little one in summer when kids go back for summer classes as well. So 3 in total, but 2 main ones there. So that answers the first question. It is a full-time thing, like all year round, but obviously there's going to be more sales velocity and better margins, if you buy books ahead of textbook season. Now, one mistake that I have seen some people make is buying them in textbook season. That's not what you want to do, right? You want to source ahead of textbook season, ship them into FBA for textbook season, and that's how you're going to multiply your money very easily, okay? So next question in this is, With the virus and everything, how have books been selling? No one, he's no information about schools yet, but what do I see with books in the summer months and stuff like that? Then he says he has 200 to invest, so that's like part 3 of the question. So in my opinion, the books haven't been, so I only have a little bit of FBA inventory left, right? A lot of my textbooks are still FBM because at the time of sourcing, I was just kind of flipping books here and there, just like I kind of flip wholesale here and there, or just like I kind of flip from retail sites here and there, right? So a lot of people you'll see is like they just have an FBA business where they just reflip, they just source books and resell books, or they just do wholesale. And that works, obviously, you're gonna master one, but what I like to do is I like to look at it as like, you know, they're all kind of clubs in my metaphorical golf bag, right? Like in my metaphorical, like one's the driver, one's the iron, right? One's the putter, right? So I bring them all to the game and I source from all of them, right? So like I flip books all the time, but I also source good wholesale products. You can fulfill books from your house very, very easily because it's high profit margins on one piece of inventory. But I actually haven't listed a lot of my books FBM yet. I'm literally sourcing them. If I see steals of deals, and there are a lot of them out there, the eFlip software will literally spit them out for you. But really what I'm doing is I'm sourcing cheap inventory right now, and then as soon as they open up FBA, I'm planning on shipping it into FBA so I can obviously make that markup when textbook season hits, right? So I haven't really noticed, because I haven't listed a lot, a steady drop in books, although if I were guessing, I would say that there's probably a slight drop in books, although I did sell like 2 or 3 within the past 2 weeks. I think I've sold 2 or 3 high margin textbooks. So like one was 200 something, one might have been like 150. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but they still are selling is what I'm trying to say. So I don't know if it's whether, you know, students are taking courses online or whatever it is, but they still are moving, but just obviously everything moves, you know, a little bit lower outside of textbook season. And then obviously due to the virus, I would assume that sales are a little bit lower on books specifically, okay? But by textbook season hits, next textbook season, kids will either be back in school or they'll be outlining stuff for, you know, moving on to like teleconferencing online. I know some teachers, you know, have been doing that and kind of integrating that with their students. So I don't see, you know, students sourcing books anytime soon. Like that's not going away, okay? Now the next part of the question is, I have $200 to invest. Would I invest that just into textbooks or all books specifically? And what is the ranking if, okay, so basically he has 200 bucks to get started. Would he invest that all into textbooks or just books? So honestly, my opinion, with just $200, you probably want to take that $200 and take it into a different kind of online arbitrage business model, not books specifically, because you're gonna need, with just $200, you're gonna tie up a lot of your cash flow, right? So you can source a book for like 20 bucks or like $5 if you're sourcing like a used book, right? With a great margin, but chances are to find a lot of those great margins, you're gonna have to spend like 20 or 50 or sometimes like 70 or 80 bucks, and then your margin might be like 150 or 200. So you're spending more sometimes, not all the time, with books, but your margins are a lot higher, right? You have a little bit less inventory to manage. That's why I like it a lot. So in my opinion, with 200 bucks, that's really kind of pushing the envelope of where is a good idea to start with books, because you're going to spend that $200 on books, and then your cash flow is going to be tied up in that inventory, you know, and it might take your books a week or 2 weeks or a month or so to sell, depending on the sales velocity of your book, okay? So with just $200, I'm just gonna answer it like this. I would recommend that you start a different business model, maybe coupon arbitrage, maybe cashback arbitrage, maybe liquidation arbitrage, or something like that, or maybe even like retail website arbitrage, because those are gonna move a little bit quicker, right? So the two more scalable, and retail websites is a little bit scalable as well, and so is liquidation to a certain degree. But books and wholesale are 2 of the most scalable online arbitrage business models, and so for that reason, I wouldn't recommend starting wholesale with anything less than $1,000, and I probably wouldn't recommend starting books with anything less than like 500, okay? So your first order of business will be turn that $200 nest egg into like $500 or $1,000. Some of the other forms of arbitrage are really easy ways to do that, right? So like coupon arbitrage, cashback arbitrage, liquidation arbitrage, retail website arbitrage, or bulk arbitrage, pretty much the same thing, okay? So without getting too in depth with explaining that in this video specifically, there's an entire free case study link down in the description if you guys want to check it out. That's why I put it together, to kind of outline all those different business models, who they're good for, right? Who they're bad for, why they're advantageous, and why you might want to do some of them versus some of the other ones, depending on your situation. And then obviously it outlines some specific examples, you know, dozens for each business model of products that I've flipped online to make money doing that from one website to another, okay? I hope that this helps a lot of people. Like I said before, if you have any questions whatsoever, drop them in the comment section below. I would love to answer them for you. And with that being said, guys, I'll see you in the next one.